Out here. That was fun.
Hi, you guys. Never mind us. We're already being awesome like we usually are. But anyway, welcome everyone to Andromeda 7, our cosmic, what were we saying? The celestial gateway for everyone here, the community of support, friendship, and so many other things, you know. So we're a multi-dimensional place because we're multi-dimensional beings, and we want to thank each and every one of you for choosing to be with us tonight. That is such an honor that you chose to share your energy with us and spend that sacred time with us. So it really means a lot to us. We have a wonderful show for you guys tonight with Julian Payne with Nature Created Us. And Julian, you wanted to say?
Okay, guys, I have a box here. So you've got to get out of the box. And it's called Pandora's box. Now, Pan means all, and Dora comes from Doran, which actually means gift. So everything's a gift. It just depends on how you perceive it. So I'm going to get your neurons firing on a different pathway. It doesn't mean I'll believe it tomorrow. It's just in this moment is what I think it could be all about, because it's moment to moment.
Beautiful. All right, let's see who's all in the chat tonight. Lucky Stone, I'm too early. You're never too early. You're always on time. We got all of our panelists. Teresa, Karen's with us. Hawkeye Two Feathers is with us. David Nolan.
The rose amongst us little darlings.
Yeah. Brenda is with us tonight. Can't wait to hear a message. We have Lucky Stone, Doug Stack. Let's see, Gemini Ascension. Hi, I don't think I've seen you, but maybe one other time. Grandpa Brian 420. Hey, Brian. And let's see who else.
We got Michelle Canham Free.
Michelle Canham.
The McFreezer.
Sam Allen.
Project Skyfall.
Johan.
Kelly's in the house. She's got a word of the day for us. It's excellent.
Hey, Kelly. Yay. And Project Skyfalls. That's what's up.
Anne Allen. Thanks for being here, Anne.
And Rainbow Phoenix. Hey, Paula. Love you, girl.
Paula as well. Oh, I love that.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you guys tonight. Thank you so much. Let's get going. I want to hear Brenda's word of the day, or Brenda's poems. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day. It's almost over with, so we're ready for the weekend. My poem tonight is about happiness. We all want happiness. So it says, what is happiness? I hear you say that. What helps us smile on those dreary days? What sends a tingle through our bones? What helps us talk in cheerful tones? How does it pick? How does it choose? When to come and when to move? How does it know to work its way through every single person like me and you? Some people try as hard as they can to steal it away from another man, but it's yours forever. It's yours to keep. Don't let them take something too deep. You must look within yourself when times are blue, because happiness is a thing that lives in you.
Beautiful.
So that
yes.
Happiness.
Awesome.
Yes.
Spread that around.
Simple and beautiful at the same time.
Brenda, that's so nice.
Thank you, Brenda.
So it's true. Have a great show tonight. I love you all, and I'll talk to you later.
Oh, you too.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Brenda. Love you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Love you.
Love you. I love that one.
Oh, it's so true, isn't it? Happiness is an inside job, right? Happiness
That's
is an
right.
inside job.
That's the sign on my door. Inside job. Nobody else's responsibility.
No, you can't make anyone happy. It's a choice.
No. Yes.
She was so sweet and so supportive of me last week when I had those funerals and everything.
Yeah,
so
she got hit hard.
Really, a lot of you supported me in that. I really appreciate it. Yep.
Awesome.
So everybody kept sending me little notes, and it's very uplifting.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really difficult, so it's really good that you have a team around you to say, hey, we're here, we know you're there.
Soul tribe
we love you.
support.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
very
there's
important.
nothing like
Got to support each
extremely
other. Mm-hmm.
Yes, extremely. So we have a word of the day from Kelly.
We do.
Kelly,
Just want to let you know, if you haven't met Kelly before, she was in a lot of the earlier episodes, but this is my sister Kelly. She's such a sweetheart. Yeah, she's a good gal. And she worked really hard on this. And we'll go ahead and play it for you right now. Here we go.
That's beautiful.
Wasn't
That
that?
was, yeah.
Claire
very
really
good.
got
Thank
you that. Yocha.
Yeah,
It took me a
yocha.
second to like process the word because I was like, wait, what? Huh?
That's
Yeah.
really profound how important trees are,
Mhm.
connecting us with, the divine and under and, as above, so below. And, it's kind of like we're the trees too, we're kind of the trunk of that, vessel of communication. So that was really awesome, Kelly.
Yeah,
Oh,
well done.
goodness.
Yeah.
Very
It
well
was.
done. I love the music she picked too. It was like
Yeah.
one beat popping around.
Yeah.
All right.
Nicely
So,
done. Nicely done, Kelly. Dovetails just great
yes,
with
your
the,
hard work is
Mhm.
phenomenal. Great
it fits
choice of
in with
music.
the
I'm like,
slideshow.
Yes, it does.
Did you say the sideshow?
No, it
All
fits.
right.
It fits in with the
slideshow.
slideshow
Does.
tonight. Yeah, it does.
Yes. Yes.
Truth
Beautiful.
Seeker just joined us, by the way.
Oh, hey, Truth
Hey,
Seeker.
Truth.
And
Hi,
Isby
Truth.
3 Mind joined us as well. And Johan, Johan Dancing Gypsies here. Good. We're caught up, everybody.
I feel more complete now.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So we have a lot of information we'd like to share with you guys and
Yeah.
have everyone have a discussion. So let's go ahead and roll these slides.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Slideshow. Here we go.
Well, we'll just hold here for a second and we'll just recap. Jules and Mandy and a bunch of us have been brainstorming. We have a box that we share to share ideas. And so a lot of this material you're going to see tonight has been weeks and weeks and weeks of downloads that we've all had about this subject. And so I wanted to define the term nature and what it really means to get us started with. So nature, in the broadest sense, is the natural, physical, material world or universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the word nature is borrowed from the old French nature or nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's derived from the Latin word natura or essential qualities, innate disposition. In ancient times, it literally meant birth. Birth. This is important. So the many views of creation that we have going on right now in multiple different chat rooms, everybody's talking about how were we created, how did we get here, and so forth. The progression of new technology over the centuries, the erosion of certain basic fundamental principles that we had early on in our humanity, and a certain amount of forgetfulness, of course, along the way. Forgetfulness of how great we are as a people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the tendency has been, here of late in particular, because of the times, we've just focused on all the downside of humanity. The glass half empty versus the glass half full approach. And so a good way, and Jules will tell you with her years of poetry and getting her information on this, that we're in a spell, that language over time has evolved in such a way as to take away from the true meaning of the way things were, even in indigenous populations, early cultures. And so we get hung up sometimes in the lingo, in the modern day lingo. So a good way to start undoing the spell right here tonight by taking a brief journey, just brief, into our history, so that we can get an alternative point of view on things, go back to some original thought on creation, not scripture-based, no one religion. I'm not promoting, we at Andromeda are not promoting any kind of religion here. We're just simply saying there's some basics that we may have swept under the carpet in our angst over current events and situations. So that's kind of, does anybody want to add to that before I proceed? Okay. So let's head on to the second slide here. Jules, I swiped one of your poems.
I saw that.
Okay, thanks. So you're going to recite it, aren't you? I'm not reciting today.
Who wants to read it?
I'll do it for you.
Thank you. It'll be
Yeah.
lovely to hear someone else read my poem.
Okay,
Thank
I'll do my best. Okay. I take a mother tree, sow her seeds, they become offspring. Earth, water, they breed, strike from soul, motherhood, from same plant. Now regenerative, woo, would up more rise from her roots and divide you all, many shoots, energy sources, so you are sea. Flower, daughter, son, all connected, relief, love one. Ooh,
There you go.
That's hard to read that, you guys.
Yeah, I know. The way I do undo the spell, it does.
Yeah, what goes on in your mind, gal?
You know, it's sometimes what happens is to get the message across, I can say it the way I say it, but you have to read it the way I've undone the spell.
Yeah.
You know, like that's where it's a two-way of actually physically seeing, and verbalizing. I can say so, but I write it as SOW as I'm sowing the seed, right? Because you can also sow with a thread, which we are doing that as well as SEW, but we spell it as SO. But I tend to, and if I'm going to say wood, I write it as WOOD. But if I wrote it, you would still say it as WOULD, you know? So sometimes you actually do have to see how I've pulled the word apart. You have to physically see it, you know? And that's why with sharing my poetry in my poetry book to people, you can actually possibly see in some of the ways how I've pulled the words apart. Because when I recite them, you don't see the way it's been undone.
Well, the hardest hood I've ever lived in is motherhood.
I like that.
All right, Lori.
Right.
All right, so let's just take a few minutes to go way, way back now. We're going to go all the way back to the time of Enoch, prior to the Egyptian civilization, just to highlight a few things go with the flow, folks, because this is really interesting how it all connects.
The flower.
Everything connects. That's right. All right. So for those who don't know who Enoch is, most everybody does, but he was the great, 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 great grandson of Adam and Eve from the Seth line. He was a great grandfather of Noah as well. He only lived to be 365 years old compared to others who had lived 700 years. Because they say God took him. He never saw death.
They call that translation, right? They call that you're translated. You know, you don't. Your physical matter was translated in a twinkling of an eye.
Yeah,
interesting, Crystal.
They say that a fiery chariot came down from the heavens, driven by the archangel Michael, who some have interpreted as being an extraterrestrial, but we won't go there because that's a possibility. You never know, but could have been a jet engine or a rocket ship, but most folks just think he ascended just like Christ was said to have ascended. That's in their lore. Now, there are 3 extensive apocrypha, or books, if you will, attributed to Enoch. This is important because it talks about, at the end, how it might relate to the pyramids and what they were used for. So, in the Book of Enoch, the first book, he composed an ancient it's written in ancient Ethiopian Semitic language. It was preserved in Ge'ez, and it was first brought to Europe by James Bruce from Ethiopia, translated into English by August Dillman and Reverend Shud. It's recognized by the Orthodox Tewahedo churches, and it's usually dated between the 3rd century BC, and 1st century AD.
Wow.
The second book, the Book of the Secrets of Enoch, was written in Old Church Slavonic and first translated to English by William Morfill, usually dated to the 1st century AD. The third Book of Enoch is a rabbinic text written in Hebrew. That was dated to around the 5th century AD. These recount how Enoch was taken up to heaven, appointed guardian of all celestial treasures, chief of the archangels, and the immediate attendant to the throne of God. He was subsequently taught all secrets and mysteries, and with all the angels at his back, fulfills all of his own accord, whatever comes out of his mouth, or whatever comes out of the mouth of God, and he executes God's decrees. So there's a lot of esoteric literature, such as these 3. In Book 3, he's known as the Metatron. Have you heard that terminology, Metatron?
Yeah.
That's the angel that communicates God's word. In the rabbinic Kabbalah of Jewish mysticism, as having been the one which communicated God's revelation to Moses on the mountain, and in particular, the dictator of the Book of Jubilees. So he's got a lot of credits to his name, whoever he was, okay? Now, in the Book of Giants, there's another, that's a Jewish pseudepigraphal work from the 3rd century BC, and it resembles the Book of Enoch, fragments of which I guess there's anywhere from 6 to as many as 7 or 11 fragments found among the Dead Sea Scrolls as well. Okay, so most of these describe him as being pious and ascetic, called to mix with others, preached repentance, gathered groups of people together. Despite the small number of people on earth at the time, it's said that he had a vast collection of disciples, to the extent that he was proclaimed king. He was proclaimed a king. Now, this is all pre-flood history here, okay? So he apparently resided on earth and summoned to heaven by God himself, eventually to serve the sons of God. This is important. Remember who the sons of God were, right?
Yes.
The Nephilim?
Nephilim.
Who came down and intermarried with humans?
Women.
Can I pull Nephilim apart?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
ahead.
NE is born of, right? NE, or it's NEE, but NE. And then you got pH, which I always say is the power of the hydrogen. So it's all to do with born of that little atom the hydrogen, the aqueous vapor.
Right.
And we're coming, what's happening is we're coming into balance in the next couple of days, guys. So keep your thoughts balanced because you need your pH level balanced. Okay?
Okay.
Yep.
So stay balanced.
Oh,
And
I've got some homemade cabbage, fermented cabbage going, so I'm good.
That's good.
Kimchi.
That's good.
Yeah.
All
You
right.
go back.
So,
you keep going.
So the reason this is important to understand is that he is also, there is a line of theory right now that since the Pyramid at Giza has been dated further back into time than we think, even prior to Proto-Egyptian times, we touched on this a little bit in Esoteric Egypt the very first night, that Enoch may have very well been the one prior to the flood to create a civilization, a pre-Egyptian civilization. It may very well have been the one with the sacred geometry and mathematics. And those people of Enoch at the time may very well have been the ones to create the type of machine that was needed to protect the earth. So that's a theory, and we'll get into that just a little bit. But before we move on, it's important to note that Noah was described by his father, now Noah being the great-grandson, okay, was said to have been a hybrid. His eyes were so brilliant, his face was so different. His father, Methuselah, describes him this way. So it is believed that Enoch's own son was an offspring of the sons of God. Okay.
Can I also mention with Methuselah is methyl, right? And he was it was a turpentine tree. Okay? He lived 900 and something odd years, supposedly. Okay? Remember, I'm the reprogrammer here. I'm just giving you another aspect to look at the word. Okay? So methyl is an alcohol. Right? Turpentine is a pine tree. Okay. You keep going now, Teresa.
All right. No, this is good because if they're storing, this is going to lead to something in a minute. We're getting to it. Okay, next slide, Lori. We touched briefly, and so has Scotty, by the way. Scotty Roberts has a whole series on Enoch from about a year ago. So if you want to get more information on Enoch, he took that apart, and he really
was well done.
He did a really good series on that. And he talked about the Hebrew letter ayin.
Ayin, yeah.
Ayin, A-H-Y-E-E-N, which is the 16th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And it has, it means eye, to see, and by extension to understand and obey, apparently. The Ayin further represents the primeval light, that is the spiritual light of God mentioned in Genesis 1:3. And it also is talked about celestial lights mentioned in Genesis 1:14 through 18. According to Jewish Midrash, the Jewish Midrash, this divine light is far greater than the light that emanates from the sun and the stars, though concealed in the Torah. The spiritual eye can behold the presence of this radiance, but only by means of an inner eye given by the Rosh HaKodesh. Ayin is sometimes described as having two eyes that connect to a common optic nerve that leads to the human brain. Okay? The two eyes represent choice, or the actions of the will, which is the heart. They perceived that to be the heart. We can choose whether to use the good eye or the evil eye to perceive things. It's how we look at things. We can choose to see the glass as half full, or we can choose to see it as half empty. Like the letter in Aleph, it's a silent letter. It is said that Ayin sees but does not speak. Jules. And therefore represents the attitude of humility. The word, let's see, it can also, the other eye can also mean idolatry, slavery, born out of the heart of envy. So we make a choice as to how we use our eyes, which is what? Our pineal gland, right?
Mhm. Yep.
So he had that in mind when he, or someone did. They now don't think it was Khufu. They think it was a king that far predated. And who was the king? Enoch was the king.
Mhm.
So now they didn't speak Hebrew, but they had another kind of language. It was later interpreted by Hebrew, but it's also the Eye of Ra or Horus, adopted by the Egyptians later
Sahi
on.
Hawass would be so upset to see this.
Oh yeah.
He'd be so
Next-
badass.
Okay, so now if you take a look on the right side of this slide, you're looking at the ayin turned sideways, and this is how the internal mechanisms of the Great Pyramid were built.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to the next slide, Lori. This shows how the King's Chamber, the Queen's Chamber, the Grand Gallery leading up to it, all of the ventilation shafts, everything there. Scotty said he looked down and could see the Eye of Horus. So when he was up there, he looked down and saw the Eye of Horus. This is meaningful because it means something. I kept saying it means something. So let's just keep flowing with it. There's multi-purposes to the pyramid. We talked about that a few nights ago, that it could mean resurrection. It could have been used for a number of things, for purification and ritual, for the king, who was different than the emperor. But there are other multi-purposes for it. And this is showing you how water is used to be pumped into the pyramid, and how it could have been used for water storage. It also could have been a water pump, and we'll get into that in just a second. Get to the next slide real quick. There is something to be said for these, because it's like, what in the world do they depict on the walls in some of their hieroglyphs? It appears to be some type of a light bulb or some type of an electric device. So if you go to the next slide, gives you another view of it, a sort of an enlarged view of it. And they are using it to generate some type of activity.
It's a big ass light bulb.
Yeah, you can see like the filament in there, that wiry looking.
It looks like a snake.
Yeah. This. Yeah.
So you all know about Tesla. Some people might know this, some people might not know this, but he had numerous unusual obsessions, one of which was ancient Egypt.
Oh, David, yeah, go ahead, David.
Yeah.
Not to interrupt you, but if you also notice what's holding the deck burnt thing, it's a giant.
Yes. Yeah, good point.
Let's just leave it there, because people are not including giants into this story. Okay? I'll leave it there.
Good point.
The trees were giants. The trees were giants.
They were.
And remember, this is all pre-flood, but but we don't know when these hieroglyphs, because the pyramid dates way back, we're not sure about these, but I mean, come on. Okay, so Nikola Tesla, one of his beliefs was that the Great Pyramids of Egypt were giant transmitters of energy. He built Tesla towers according to the laws inspired by studying the pyramids, a thought that coincided with his investigation into how to send energy wirelessly. So he got his inspiration from the pyramids. So if we go to the next slide.
Okay. Teresa, I want to mention something as well before you go too much further with this.
Go for it.
I just want to mention, like with the slide before, when you showed the Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber, and even this one, the importance of the energy and how it moves within a pyramidal shape and a tetrahedron. If you notice, the Queen's Chamber itself is within exactly in what's called the centroid position. And what my understanding back within the energy system of the pyramids, that's where like a huge crystal would have been placed to move the energy. And if you look at the dynamics and the energy that moves within the pyramids from the centroid, and from there it moves up and as it moves within the pyramid and the form, as it moves towards the top, it increases like 10,000 fold as it moves throughout to the top from the central position and up. So
I also
that's
want to
really
mention
important.
that it is, and I also want to mention, I think this has to do with the divine feminine and divine masculine energy, a part of this mechanism. I think it has something to do with the mechanism of how this machine works. Because think about it, you have these aspects within the self, within yourself. So these aspects would have a lot to do with how these, energies can come together and create things or manifest things, or so I think there's something to do with the left and right, hot and cold, yin yang, and male and female. I think that has something to do with it too. It's just a guess though.
Well, sort of, maybe, Crystal, but I think of it, as you notice, the Queen's Chamber is the central position in the center of the pyramid and the center of the energy. So in the creationary force, like the earth is in the feminine. So I think that's the important position within the pyramid, is that central position, actually, and the creative force within that.
Right.
So that's why it's called the Queen's Chamber.
There's another chamber that this is showing that's been hidden for many, many years. X-ray technology has shown that there's another chamber off to the side. They're not quite sure what it was used for. It's been speculated that it might be the housing area for the electronics. It may have been used, like the electricity that they may have been generating, and the combination of the water, the fact that the walls of the tombs are in granite, which is a conductor, right? So, so they are speculating that might very well be in a workroom, type of workroom, but they don't know. They don't know yet.
Well, you're right, Teresa. Like, as far as the granite and the stones used, and of course the piezoelectric with the silicon, the quartz within it, right? And so that had a energy within it that would vibrate, and then that's why, of course, the capstones were like copper or gold material as a capacitor for the top, right? As an energy system. So that's exactly how it worked. Yeah.
Okay, so in 1905, Tesla filed a patent in the U.S. Titled "The Art of Transmitting Electrical Energy Through the Natural Medium," outlining designs for a series of generators around the world. Now listen to this. These generators would tap the ionosphere for energy collection. He saw planet Earth itself with its two poles as a giant electrical generator of limitless energy. His triangle-shaped design became known as Tesla's electromagnetic pyramid. It wasn't just the shape, though, of the Egyptian pyramids, but their location that created their power, according to Tesla. He built a tower facility himself, known as the Tesla Experimental Station in Colorado Springs and Wardenclyffe Tower. Right, David? The Tesla Tower on the East Coast that sought to take advantage of the Earth's energy field. He wanted to tap into the Earth's energy field just like he thought the Egyptians did. The locations were chosen according to the laws of where the pyramids of Giza were built, related to the relationship between the elliptical orbit of the planet and the equator. The design was intended for wireless transmission of energy. David, did you want to add anything? You've got your mute button on. If you want to add anything, take it off.
Yeah, the pyramid is a big machine, and I'd like to point, I want to be not necessarily the opposing side of this. Just remember that the names of these chambers were given by people who had religious stuff tied to it. So the king's chamber has nothing to do with the king. The queen's chamber had nothing to do with the queen. They assumed these things. Now, as an engineer and person, anyway, it is automatically, simply by its shape and probably its position, because it's so attached to Mother Earth, it is definitely a female energy. So not that there isn't a male energy, but if you think of, quote, Mother Earth, you don't think of Father Earth, okay? So it is taking the energy of the Earth. Now, what it's doing or where it's going, that's up for grabs. But I just wanted to point that out, in that the names of things have been given by man.
Uh-huh.
And so it puts in our brains sort of, well, it's got to do with this and that. It might not. It's a machine
Right.
that we are sure of. So anyway, my 2 cents.
Absolutely.
No, thank you, David. That's
Excellent.
spot on.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'd like to say something, Teresa, too,
Mhm.
because you're talking about it as an energetic system or energy system that we use catalysmic event, like a catastrophic event. And when this happened, as far as the Dihole Foundation and different scientifics, when this event happens, the Earth actually changes its rotation, and it actually stops and then starts and goes the opposite direction or reverses it. And so what happens is the systems that were created before this event, which was 12,068 years approximately, as far as the Adam of Eve event by Thomas Chan, and what happens, and so that would definitely now why it doesn't no longer work, right? Because we're actually in a different system now, going in the opposite direction or reverse direction, and our physics are changed within the planet of what happened at that time. So this is why they're no longer active or no longer of use, right? Because with that event, we completely changed, how we were moving energetically, and completely reversed our direction. So
Yep.
I think that had something to do with it and why they're no longer usable. And remember, at the time, it would have changed our grids and our ley lines and our crystal grids, as far as our consciousness and the energy that the pyramids produced, as far as our energetic patterns and our realities. And that would have, during that event, changed that as well, as far as our consciousness and energy and everything within the Earth, right? Probably even dropped us down, I think, and from what we would have known as far as what we existed, as far as maybe the 5th dimension, down to maybe a 3rd dimension, and why we're now in a 3rd dimension of reality. So I think that happened probably from the last event, and why we have just remembrances of all these entities and magic and things we had available to us that we have remembrance of, but we no longer have the ability to use, because we moved from that 5th dimensional reality and consciousness and physics down to the 3rd dimension from that last event. Just a thought.
No,
and also because I've, in my writing and stuff, with water and the ether and the air, and because air was spelt A-E-R, not, anyway, all the different ways water has it spelt like that as well. I think the ether, the air, the water, the fire, they're all virtually the same. They're just like, we're all the same, but we're different, everything's the same but different. And I think as the ice does melt, we're remembering more, because water holds memory. And as that water melts, that's where we're getting a lot of, and the more that you're connected with Mother Earth and nature, you will actually get the information. Now, from my point of view, I was told from my higher self, I don't work with anything other than, I class it as my higher self or Mother Nature, because I'm in the garden, I walk barefoot, I eat from my garden. So I ingest the information from the dew that drops on my plants, which stores all the information. So that's where I say, I don't channel anyone in particular. I just say I'm working with the whole gamut of Mother Nature. That's where I get my information from. That's what I perceive is where I get my information. And I was told from my higher self not to read any more books many years ago, as I was writing my own, which was poetry, because they are all stories, everybody. And I always say that myself, I am telling you a story, and it's up to you to connect with your higher self to get your clarity and your truth, because your truth is not my truth.
All right.
So everything we're showing is still a story and a perception, of, like David just said. that were names that a human might have given it. And that's why when you read a word, and I didn't bring my dictionary in, it's in the car. Now that dictionary is pre-NASA. Now there's words in that book that they actually have made null and void. They reckon they do not exist anymore. And that's where I will lead into that later if it gets to that point. But the dictionaries have been changed and the spells have been changed to control you. And everything holds a vibration. And we don't use those tones in English that used to be
Right.
a tone that was connected through just sound.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into that now. That's the next
Righto.
phase of this.
Well,
Yeah,
there
we're
you
going to
go.
get into that. But
Yeah,
just for a
exactly,
second, just for a second, is Trina still trying to get in?
She's trying to get in, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm trying to communicate with her. I can't do anything because the slide's up. I can't see you guys. I
Okay.
can't bring her in.
So let me, I just sent her a text message to see if she wanted to try to come in.
She's been
Yeah.
trying to come in. I can't stop
Okay.
the slideshow. I can't see
Okay.
to bring her in. That's the problem.
Yeah, she says she's still trying.
Unless you want me to
Can you
pop out of
suspend
this?
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you pop out of this?
There we go.
Get
There's
Trina in.
Trina. Very good.
There we go. There she is.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me see if I can
Trina.
go back. Sorry, Trina.
That's okay.
I can't see
Ah,
anything.
there
I'm
she
like
is.
totally in the dark.
There
I
we
can
go.
hear you guys,
There we
but I
go.
can't see
sitting
you.
backstage for a long time because I couldn't get in on the links again. It was weird. I finally got
Okay.
in through the email you sent, Lori.
Oh, good,
So-
good.
No
Okay.
idea.
Thank you. So you've been listening. You know where we are so far with this.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry you had to
Great.
so let's get past this one, Lori. We got to move this along a little bit. Get past this slide. So again, Tesla, he built his design based on what he thought was going on. Now he was saying that they had a wireless capability, and they had a way of transmitting signals. Go ahead to the next slide. This is another hieroglyph. And what this person has done is they've taken the idea of a communications network, trying to compare it to the hieroglyphs, trying to show us how that may have worked. There may have been a number of these, and some are speculating that they were inside of that hidden chamber. So I can't wait until they finally find a way in there to see what's actually in there, if it hasn't been looted. But if nobody else can get in there, chances are over thousands of years, nobody else has gotten in there either. So it'd be nice to know if this was their electrical workstation, if you will. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so also there's speculation that in addition to it being a power generator, it was also some type of a water pump, that it could pump in water from the Nile through the town in canals, load it in, have it go into the Queen's chamber, and have it pump out, and that creates some type of pressurization. So the combination of I'm not an engineer, David, you have more, but I'm not an engineer, but it's the combination of it maybe being both a water pump and electricity to generate some type of frequency.
Hydro generator. Mm-hmm.
Hang on there. If they had means to build that thing, they didn't need a water pump. They didn't need to generate steam. This is people who are using common. I'm an engineer. Look at this in color. You know, steam, all this other stuff. Oh, get out of here! Stop it. You know, you're.
That's fine, David. Go ahead. That's why you're here tonight.
If they built them and they had electrical, they were using some type of bulb device to move those rock. Now, it could have been some type of water pump for an irrigation, possibly. But if they had the technology to build the pyramid, it wasn't for the purposes these people are trying to tell us. It's opinion. Remember that.
Agreed.
Yep.
Totally
That's why I'm
David.
showing it. These are the theories. Now, how all this works together, whatever parts of it are, let's say, the theoretically possible. Now we get to the idea of there being some type of acoustic amplifier. There's another theory. Go ahead, Lori, to the next one. monuments worldwide have apparently have acoustic properties. We know this. The science is called archaeoacoustics. If you want to check out the latest episode of Ancient Aliens tonight, you can, because they're talking about this very thing. But what we do have is scientific data about how sound affects plant life and trees. Okay? So, thinking ahead now, you've got post-flood going on here eventually. So somehow is the pyramid being used, like they say, as a reset for humanity after a catastrophic event. Hold on, Karen. Hold on. So sound wave technology has been applied to different types of plants. It's been found that sound waves were at different frequencies. I'm going to give you a couple examples. You can look this up yourselves. But sound pressure levels, exposure periods, and distances from the source of sound do influence plant growth. Experiments have been conducted, and I looked at some of them, in the open field under greenhouses, growing conditions with different levels of audible sound frequencies. For example, sound waves at 1 kilohertz and 100 decibels for 1 hertz within a distance of 20 meters can significantly promote the division and cell wall fluidity, Jules, of the callus cells, and also significantly enhance the activity of protective enzymes in endogenous hormones. Sound wave stimulation, they found, could increase the plant plasma membrane activity, the contents of soluble sugar, soluble protein, amylase, all affecting activity of callus. Moreover, sound waves could increase the content of RNA and the level of transcription. Then they have more information here. Sound waves at 1.1 kilohertz at 70 plus 0.5 decibel for 3 hours from plant acoustic frequency technology generator that they were using for the test, held at a distance from 30 to 60 meters every other day. It significantly increased the yield of sweet peppers, cucumbers, and tomatoes by anywhere from 13 to 37%. Furthermore, the yield of lettuce, spinach, cotton, rice, wheat, all increased between 5.7 all the way up to 22.7%.
Wow.
So everything
Sound
loves
waves.
music.
Yeah.
Let's jam.
the drum.
Let's jam.
All right.
Certain tones.
They also said that sound waves may also strengthen plants' immune systems. And they proved through some of their tests that spider mites, aphids, gray mold, late blight, and virus diseases that tomatoes get, and other things in your greenhouse, like my squash that was just like killed this year, they decreased those diseases, spreading of the disease anywhere from 6 to 11%. And the sheath blight of rice was reduced by 50%. This is sound wave technology. There's papers out there, you guys. You can go into it in greater detail, but I'm leaving it here because we're building something here for everybody to think about. Does anybody want to add to that before I move on? Okay, let's move on to the next one. So then we have the flood. Okay, so all this time, they constructed this machine. They were using it for various reasons. Ziggurats in ancient Samaria were built to protect something. And it's said, the people there say, they were built to protect some things in the event of a flood. And like, why? You're in the middle of the desert. Why would you think you're going to flood? They built these ziggurats because they wanted to be at higher places, and they put their thrones and throne rooms on top. Okay? So the question is, and some speculate the pyramids were built for that reason as well, that Enoch built it that way for a reason, okay? The question is, if they had power and electricity, did they have a way to generate the sound frequencies with that electricity? And did they have some kind of knowledge that we've lost, that if they needed to, after a catastrophe, Karen, they could help to reset the earth? They could help to regenerate plants and vegetation by sending out sound. And you remember, these pyramids were located in several places throughout the ages. So is it possible that they knew how this worked? So that was the question. And then all this research started coming in from everybody in the chat boxes. And I'm like, wait a minute. Now having read this next piece that we're going to go to, it's all going to click and start making possible sense to you. Go to the next one. So let's touch on, before we go into the details of how that machine could have worked to help rebuild our ecology, let's go to why they put such importance in it, right? Why would they go to all this trouble to do that if they knew they could farm out, or they could do it in small places themselves to get what they needed for food? Why take such an interest, especially in trees? So it turns out that trees have always been symbols of a connection with mankind. In Mesoamerican, as Kelly was showing in her opening word of the day, in Mesoamerican mythology, trees, an immense tree grows at the center of the universe, and it stretches its roots into the underworld and cradles earth and heaven and its trunks and branches, right? Norse cosmology features a similar tree called Yggdrasil, Yggdrasil. There's a popular Japanese drama, NOH drama, tells of wedded pines that are eternally bonded despite being separated by a great distance. In ancient Mesoamerica, the ceiba tree was the tree of life, where the world came into existence, and its roots went deep into the underworld while its branches supported the heavens. So these next few slides are going to show you very quickly some of the representations that different cultures had about the tree. So this one's the Egyptian tree of life, widely thought to represent the divine creator, represents the interconnectedness of all beings. The tree of life represented the hierarchical chain of events that brought everything into existence. And take notice of the shape of this tree, because it's going to mean something as we move forward. Take a look at the way it's shaped and the branches, also the two figures next to the tree. Next slide, Lori. So this is in another depiction of how the Egyptians painted the 5 steps of life, cycle of life. They depicted the birds in the tree, and each bird had a different color. They called those spheres. So they had a life cycle, and they thought the trees were representative of their own life cycles as humans. This next one, Lori. Egyptian mythology, the very first couple. Now the Christians have Adam and Eve, right? The Egyptians had a couple, earth and sky. They represented earth and sky, and they were said to have been born actually from the trees, that they came from the trees. They emerged from the acacia tree, which I'm showing you on the right-hand side, and they considered this their tree of life. So it's a specific type of tree that they believe humanity evolved out of. This is pretty cool. Jules, it's probably rocking. Next one, next slide. Okay, in the Assyrian world, there are some carvings as well. Take a look at that tree and the shape of it. Okay, this is symbology ascribed to the tree of life. We don't know much about it, but you see the two people in attendance on the left and the right of the tree? Looks very much like the other one, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So whoever these beings were, they were people of great importance, kings, angels, maybe, whoever they thought they were. For a king to take his time to feed and nurture and grow a tree meant something. That's the symbolism. It meant something pious to them. Next slide. Okay, so there's another representation of it with the winged kings on either side of the tree of life. And then on the right-hand side, they have some type of bird. That's their Assyrian gods. So they considered the tree to be reverent and from God, of life and divinity. All right, next one. Sorry, I'm having to take you through this quickly because I didn't want to. All right, so then, of course, the Christians have their, Garden of Eden story about how Adam and Eve were the first beings. Now, they didn't say they came from the tree, but they were created from God, And the earth and clay, Adam from earth and clay, well, that's where the trees are, right? So humans and trees share, from their way of thinking, they share connectedness. And from a scientific perspective, coming from the soil, humans and trees have this commonality. All right, and next one. So this is Hinduism. This is their tree. During the cyclic destruction of creation, when the whole earth was enveloped by water after a great deluge, the how can you all spell that? Akshaya Vata? Akshaya Vata?
Akshaya.
Right. Yeah, banyan tree. Okay.
Banyan.
They say it was so great that it survived the flood and flourished.
Yeah, those banyans are huge.
Yeah. So that's in Hinduism. Next one. Then we have, now they were saying that the Lord Krishna was a baby resting on the leaves of this tree. So they believed that their Lord Krishna came from the tree. It's even said that Buddha meditates under a specific tree in Gaia, the Bodhi tree that we talked about before with Trina once. And so they have a physical manifestation. His energy, the Buddha's energy, has a physical manifestation in that tree. So see, they're tying all their spirituality into this tree of life in different cultures. Next slide. Okay, so it goes like this. The tree represents that part of ourselves that stays pure despite difficult situations. As long as we're rooted in spirituality and we don't give up our spirituality and we stay rooted, anchored in our inner knowing, in our beliefs, in our spirituality, we stay pure no matter how tough things get going. So these are just different representations of the tree, of the banyan tree. Go ahead, next slide. Okay, Toma and Kan is what the Mayan called their heaven, which they believed to be a mystical place obscured by a mystical mountain on the earth. This is what Kelly's slide was showing, I believe, in the opening, was that north, south, east, and west is the base of the tree. Then there, the underworld is the underground root system, which we're getting to. And then above that is the upper world. Okay, so they're showing a representation graphically of what the tree means to them. Okay, next one. Each direction in the Mayan world is represented by a different color. Its central point is considered the base through each of the layers of existence. So heaven, earth, and underworld. Isn't this cool? This is so cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that all these different, until I saw this, I was just like, whoa, mind blowing.
It's amazing.
Keep going. In Islam, you have the tree of immortality, which is very similar to the Christian tree of life. The Quran says that there's only one tree in Eden. So Eden was pretty sparse, according to the Quran. Quran, just like Christianity, Judaism believes in the Old Testament. So they both take a slightly different twist on it, but they have sort of the same belief system. Again, take a look at the shape of the tree. Next one. So Judaism also uses Kabbalah to represent the tree of life and its different stages of life. On the left-hand side, you see that geometric shape, but it also kind of looks a little bit like the Assyrian tree of life, which we saw earlier, which also has a similar shape to some of the other trees.
It does.
Which looks like a human being with a head with its spine with all the different chakra points coming out. To me,
Next one.
Anyway.
That's what I see.
Okay, so let's pause here. So now we get an understanding in a real condensed flyby quick version of the spirituality and how they felt about the creation, how they felt we are connected biologically, physiologically, but mostly spiritually to the tree and probably other plant life as well. So now This is why things were so important to them. So if there was such a device to help humanity restore itself, this is why it was so important to them that that device be in place, in my opinion. If all these theories prove at some point, I mean, it's still a lot of speculation here, but boy, can you make the connection or what?
Mm-hmm.
Now we find out why or how. Now we find out the how. So we have the machine, we have the why, and now the how. How is it done? How is it happening? So today, scientists confirm that trees do communicate in a social fashion just like we do. It isn't a new idea. There's been indigenous people in the Pacific North Coast. I think they're called Tsimshians. It's pronounced Tsimshian. The T, I think, is silent. So Tsimshians have known that life in the forest is interconnected. They have stories about it. There are many aboriginal groups that will tell you stories about how species in the forests are connected, and many will talk about these underground networks. So those folks are still connected to that and understood. I never knew there was an underground network. I mean, it makes perfect sense, but I never really thought about it before. That they have that they actually have a way of communicating. Below the ground, there are fungal highways connecting the trees. And we have scientific proof of this now, okay? I've been looking at the studies, and they're out there on the internet. They actually cooperate with each other, just like we cooperate with each other. Did you know this? They help each other. Let's go to the next slide. At the root level, scientists are saying that after about 1 million years of evolution, starting maybe 600 million years ago, fungi and plants formed a symbiotic relationship called, and help me with this, Karen, mycorrhiza, mycorrhiza. Is that right? The word comes from Greek for fungus and root. And the next slide will show you they're exchanging sugars and carbons from the trees. The fungus provides what trees require, the minerals, the nutrients, and the communication network is what they use to supply their systems and share those nutrients with other trees around them. Okay, right. Next slide. Okay. So they dump all these.
I'd like to make a point here, just because of the slides and what you're saying.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just because I'm in the Northwest Pacific, and as you know, and in the forest a lot. And what I found out recently by studies and scientists to match up with what you're saying, especially along the rivers here that are the salmon runs, is that the scientists actually did studies and scientifically proved that the trees along the river system and even further up actually had salmon DNA. So the trees actually not only had theirs, but also had salmon. And they figured it was from the continued, the bears here taking the salmon from the river and eating them on the banks and the shores, and the salmon, and as well, I thought, well, within the rivers themselves and how they, get water within their network system. So you're right. Like, I mean, we're connected, and in that way, definitely they proved that there was actual salmon DNA within in the Northwest Pacific along these river systems where the salmon ran, and they, and the bears were eating them, and so it was right within the trees and right within their DNA. So they had salmon DNA. So
that's amazing. See, and go to the next slide, because apparently, when each tree releases their own chemicals, they send signals down through their own roots, right? But now think about this. They're claiming, what these scientists are actually showing with their studies, it's not just the roots of one tree that extend. I mean, I've got roots from a tree that go across 3 yards behind me. So I know they keep growing underground. But can you imagine all the connection points and data nodes to get a whole forest talking to each other?
The worldwide wood.
Yep, just a network.
They call
There's
it
a fungus among us.
Yeah, I've been wanting to say that.
I've been wanting to say that. So it's nitrogen, sugars, carbon, phosphorus, water, chemicals, and hormones. But now get this, they also have defense signals.
Mhm.
They can send information
Message.
to other trees. Yeah. Let's go on to the next one. So they warn their neighbors. Okay. They have these threads of bacteria and other microbes, and they swap the nutrients with the fungus in the
Ooh.
tree roots and send that to other trees that are infected.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Mhm.
So what I was doing when I had an infected tree, I knew it was going to contaminate the ones around it. So I sawed off some of its limbs to help keep some of that disease away. I didn't know the trees often have their own natural way of defending each other. But
Mhm.
so there's a scientist you all should know. Her name is Suzanne Simard, Simard. She's from the University of the British of Columbia, right, Karen? She studies how trees talk to each other, and she's done extensive experimentation over 3 decades. She spent 3 decades of her life working on this, and she says it's much more than what you see, and you can't. You have to allow it to look at the whole forest as a single organism, a single living, breathing organism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their system does what our human system does too. So it's almost like we're designed to be just like the trees. We need sun, we need water, we have sugar and all these fungi. It's just that we're walking. We're not rooted that way. We might be rooted spiritually, though. We definitely are. Next
So
slide.
we are the dreams of trees.
That's right.
We are the dream. Yeah.
They are
Well-
stationary, and then they created us to walk.
Oh, that's a beautiful
Yeah.
thought. I
Yeah,
used to
and-
think like that when I was a young child because I love trees. I've loved trees my whole life. And I would think that like, oh, what if we're their thoughts? What if they're what if I'm a dream of them, and things like that. So
Wow.
She even went so far as to say that reaching out to one another like this, she calls the hub trees, the ones that get the signals and say, oh, I need to help defend. She calls them the mother trees. And these mother trees then nurture saplings. So when newer trees are being born, the mother, just like a bird or any other animal would take care of their young, send nutrients to the sapling.
Wow.
So
so cute.
Like
Yeah.
it's nursing. It's
Yeah,
nursing the trees.
Nursing trees.
Mhm.
she's like, she
I
goes so
call it
far.
a nursery.
Go to a
Yes.
tree nursery.
Yeah.
She
That's
also
right.
believes, now she could be stretching here.
Can I
There's
add
no way to
something?
prove. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dave. I think David
Bob
has
does
Okay.
not like
lag.
him
I've studied
tonight.
for the rest of my life. 16, and in the backyard, I had all of my pine trees down about this, and I watched forest evolve.
Oh, he's got a
Oh,
lag.
Bob. Yeah,
Mhm.
Bob
But
does not
my
like it here.
point to the what I've noticed, this is the natural things. Batteries, grown, came in and started a tree,
Oh, wow.
but without then the cover, the oak trees can't. There's natural, they're small than the pine trees. The pine trees, the shade oak tree can take it. They're big and pine trees will die out. And there's different areas in the last 38 years I've been here. From things like dirt or forest.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but I took forestry 2-year course. But with that though, y'all about in the connection with tree that is all very important. But also, I got another point of view. But cultures who never had tree was far between. So the earth that it nourished includes, but for the grasslands, remember they trees in South Dakota mud, in Wyoming, they're great trees. The same exist in Russian areas, and so there are these great things. So I just want to, and they also felt a need because they saw how the roots of the grasses grew. They knew that they had to move their herds so they didn't overgraze. The Aboriginals in Australia taught us about prescribed burning because it's a necessary thing, and there are different things. So they may not have understood the tree, but they understood the roots of life, is where I'm headed with that, and the connection of all things that are rooted with Mother Earth. I just wanted to bring that up.
Appreciate it. We lost about half of what you said up front because of the connection, but it picked back up. But we got the point of what you're trying to say there. Thank you so much. Okay, so I think what he's saying is the point she was making. It's sad that trees, if they don't tap into their community network and they're cut off in some way, they are the ones that are most vulnerable to disease and bugs. So they sometimes
There's an analogy there.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. There's an analogy there. I'm not going to expand on it because use your nous.
Right. Yeah. So let's go to the next one, Lori. Okay. Next slide, Lori. Okay. So before Jules explains this one, there is a tribe right now in this day and age. There is a tribe called the Menominee tribe. They currently harvest 230,000 acres. 230,000 acres in the Menominee Forest in Wisconsin. And rather than focusing on money or ecology and bug spray and all this stuff, they believe, they think in terms of the whole system that Suzanne's talking about, to view it as a whole ecological, biological working organism. And so they spend all their time helping to grow new stock, but they will take out anything that's disease that could cause contamination in the network. But they have something like, I think since 1854, they're saying there's been 2.3 billion boards harvested out of these woods for construction, nearly twice the volume of the entire forest, right? But there's more standing trees now than when the logging began back in 1854. That's pretty miraculous, okay? So they said it's the most intensively tracked and managed forest probably in the world. And it looks like magic. Wow. It looks like it's never been touched. And it's because the trees have communicated so well together, and all they're doing is pruning. And when they put the new saplings in, they plant them close to what they believe are the mother nodes. And so this tribe has been doing this for decades. Isn't that fascinating?
It's awesome.
It is.
Yes.
So,
I think
so anyway,
there's some stories out of India where when there's a daughter born, they plant 200 trees when a daughter is born.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry, Lori. Go back one if you can. Did you already go? Okay. This is Jules' diagram. Jules, did you want to explain this? Because I think you're tapping. Did you want to talk about any of this?
Well, I thank Al for putting it together. He found me the woman, but I had drawn one myself back in 2016. Now, all you got to know is that we live in countries. So there you go. The trees are on the country, right? And so I always look at the word, put tree on the end. As you can see, I've put the tree as poetry and chemistry, because we don't say chemistry, because if we wanted them to try, they would never get anything done. But anyway, that's just how I've read, put it out on that little image. Now, going to the human form, and I'm only getting a lot of this information as clarity at the moment as I delve more into it, and my dictionary is such a grand thing that I've got at the moment. Nearly each word, when you trace the word through the word, it stems back virtually to a tree. You have a dorsal fin. The back of a leaf is called the dorsal. So everything, what I'll go into how I resonate with this is in our body, we have limbs. I'm going out on a limb at this moment. I've gone out on limbs several times. I wrote a book. I went out on a limb. I started a YouTube channel. I went out on a limb. I did things crazy. I went into the shower and did graffiti. I went out on a limb. You know, right? We get knots in our body. You know, when you need a massage. We have dendritic cells. They mean dendron means tree. We have fingers that look like a hand, and that's what a banana is. We have they show fruit that's similar to avocado, takes the same time as it is to birth a child. And when you cut an avocado, it looks like a pregnant woman. The lungs, the grapes, all of those things are represented inside of us. Now, where I'm going to go with this is to do with balance in our ears. Now, in our ears, we have little crystals that are called octoconia. They are calcium carbonate, which is limestone. Now, limestone comes from a shell. And our ears, drums, and cochlea is to do with shell, and the way the sound goes is through this Fibonacci type spiral like a fern. So if you look at the whole brain, there's coral that looks like a brain. What I think was back before there were humans, and I'm just going out on a limb. I've verbalized this a couple of times, but I'm going to do it live here now. Many mythology creatures we have, and mythology is just a story. Mithridatus means antidote. Mithrid-adi-us, it means that it's us. There were creatures that had bodies, like you had the centaur that was human or horse, or you had Pan, who's in my little book, who's a goat, human, Randy little goat, whatever he was, the tree, green man. You had Thoth and Ra. You had so many characters that were human plus animal. So what if Mother Nature, with all the animals that were here on grand Mother Earth, and I mean grand as in big, I'm not saying she's the previous, I'm meaning huge grand Earth, and Mother Nature, all of them come together as sentient beings, and they actually say, let's experiment. So they make these creatures that might be half human and a bird. They might be half goat and whatever, until they get it right, guys, and wear it. And I thank the trees, and I thank all of Mother Nature for us, because we have so much inside of us that is of this earth. Every creature has actually had some involvement. You can see a bird brain in our head. There is a serpent in our body. You look at the brain, it has everything to do with Mother Nature. Now, I've gone out on a limb to say this, but the stories that have been told are only stories as well. Yeah, I'm not saying this is truth, but it's my truth, because I connect with the earth to get my information. How I get my information, all that poetry is virtually stemmed to do with the garden.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I kind of wonder sometimes when I'm hugging trees and talking to them, like, what's up with you? Oh, you're different, huh? I like you. You know, like I wonder what's going on in the tree, like when you're sending them love or you're nurturing them or you're taking care of them. It's kind of like I kind of wonder, what are you thinking? What is the tree thinking? You know, what is the tree feeling?
Another thing is this whole off-world, whatever it is. Extraterrestrial just means extra territory or extra of the earth.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay? Extraordinary just means extra of ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at the words that they've got you under the spell with.
Mm-hmm.
And when you pull them apart, you can actually see what they mean. Now, imagination means I am the wise one born. Nation means born. Manipulation is man I pull at the ions. I work with those ions to get what I require. Man I feast because I put out what I require, and I spell require as the song, and choir, because I sing with Mother Nature to get what I require. I feast because I work with Mother Nature to get what I require. I say the things in a certain way because abracadabra means I create as I speak. And as you speak and say all the things that you think that could be going on, you are actually reaffirming that negative energy and creating it by talking about it. So, as usually the alchemist, non-reactive, and I sit at times and just let people speak because I don't need to buy into that story. I'm getting emotional now. So you can create your own reality and you can dwell and carry on with all those other words that you think have some value, but you're creating it by talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to live in heaven on earth, will you create it by the words you use?
Absolutely.
Wow.
I have created heaven on earth at my place. And I have been doing this for 20 odd years or more.
Yes, you have.
I don't know.
Mhm.
It is, and you plant a seed. And I thank my dear father. He planted many seeds.
Oh, that is so sweet.
And my first poem was It Starts in a Garden. And that was actually about watching with Mother Nature how you plant a seed and watch it grow. It's patience, of course. It's like everything, but the energy at the moment is quickening up. And at this moment right now, you have to dream the actual thing you want it to be. Don't talk about the whatever you think could be going on because you are creating that reality. So if you connect with Mother Nature, walk barefoot on this land, she will guide you.
Man, right? Jules, you're the one. Oh, I love you, Jules. I love your energy. Oh my gosh, I'm like resonating with you.
There is nothing more simpler. So every time you start typing saying something negative, well, it's negative because I'm just saying it's negative, but if you don't want that in your world, well, don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. She's spitting truth out now. Oh, look out, people.
Now, there's Jules? A couple of books. Yes, love. Go on, Therese.
You planted the seed with all of us. If that's why we're here tonight doing this, because that missing. I was missing something, and now I'm not missing it anymore. Thanks to you.
Well, I thank you all for hearing me. I had to go out on a limb.
Thanks for speaking your truth, Julianne.
Thanks
for going out on a limb.
Girl.
This is tonight. This is your story.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is it goes all the way back to the beginning. You're connecting to the ancient knowledge of who we really are and how we came to be. Now, I'm not saying I was born from a tree limb. I'm just saying that we were created. We were created. We all are part of nature. And you have been trying to get that message across for a couple of years now, maybe even more.
Yeah.
And now is the time for people to hear that fundamental, ancient understanding of why this connectivity that we have to each other is so strong. And it's with nature.
So
It's
we're
not
human
with
trees.
technology. It's not with high tech. High tech is a servant to us, maybe, if we need it, like we're doing tonight. That's how we're connecting with each other, is through technology, but we're using it in that half full way.
And this
Okay.
is what the real fifth dimension, or all the other dimensions, is getting back to that, because Methuselah was a was a tree. It lived for 900 years. You do not have to die, even though we know we don't die, whatever, But
Yes.
as a connected being, you can regenerate. That's what our molecular structure is doing as this energy comes in. It's about tapping into all of what you're capable of doing. And I say I know what I'm capable of. That does not limit me. I don't say I can't do something. I just choose not to do it. I'm not very tech savvy, but thank you very much, because I'm here on a technical device. But the thing is, I know what we're capable of. I know what we can do, because I just know. I don't necessarily read to tell someone to tell me that you can do this. I just know in my heart how clever we are. See the lever. Climb. C-L-I-M-B. C-L is your foundation. I am the house. If you look at the words, there is everything. And our legs are our foundation. And on that cross that they used, which was a tree, it had inner eye on it. It's your inner eye of knowing from your heart. And I know what we're capable of. So don't let anyone sway you.
We're capable of creating paradise, not on Earth, not only on Earth, but in Earth.
Inside.
Yes, inside is where paradise is right now. You don't have to die. You don't have to stand in a waiting line. It's right now.
Yeah, right. Every moment to moment. The energy is that quick now that if you look, Teresa, you can explain how this started the other morning. Just explain how quick it actually happened.
Oh, okay. Well, our sister, Marcia, had some issues in her family that really affected her a great deal, and she was not able to move forward with the previously planned show with Sister Trina for tonight. And she let me know, and we sat around going, at least I did. I was like, oh, plan B. Do we cancel the show? Do we go on with Marcia's show? No, I don't think so. It's Marcia's show. It's Marcia's story. It's Marcia's research. She's our sister. That's her voice. So I didn't want to do that. So we talked a little bit, me and Lori and Crystal. And I went into my little repertoire of things I've been building. I have folders on everybody. I'm like the CIA. I keep your information, folks, your ideas, and I put them in folders. And I add stuff to it to help grow those ideas. And then I bring them back to you and say, this is yours, by the way. So we add this information in the system. And I said, oh, this is almost ready to go. We just need to do some more slides and get some more notes in there. And we can pull this off if I can convince Jules to do it. So I got on the internet. I got on our text box. And while I'm typing, Jules, I need your help. Marcia can't do the show Friday. And I would like to know if, and I had just said to Lori, let me get a hold of Jules. I have an idea. Let me get a hold of Jules. Mm-hmm. So I got off with Lori, got on with Jules. While I'm typing to Jules, a notification comes across my stream. Ha ha ha. Won't it be great when they see how trees and humans connect with each other? I'm like, No freaking way.
Mm.
So I went over to her text box. I'm like, Jules, speaking of, we need to know if you're ready, if you would help us. So it was just like with a matter of split seconds, Lori, me, and Jules were connected.
And that's how quick it is right at
Yeah.
this moment, everybody. So
Yeah.
you've got to be careful of what you're creating.
Very careful. Yeah.
It is
Your
mind-blowing.
reality is what you think. Your
Yeah.
reality
Yes.
is what you think.
That's
I mean,
right.
you didn't know about Marsha. You didn't
No.
know the show was. You didn't even know the show was canceled
No.
No.
or postponed. And Lori didn't know that I was going to Jules for this piece. Lori just knew that I needed to talk to Jules. So all this was going on, and the three of us were actually, I think it was some form of telepathy going on.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Because I was like, okay, so it was like a show was created overnight. I mean, the show was created overnight. So, and here you go. So, anyway, the last two slides, the very last slide here, I wanted Trina. I had talked to Trina about this previously, about how this is David Barry's graphic that he uses in one of his chaos videos, music videos. I liked it so much because it shows the symbol of the Ayin in the human brain, and how the human brain, like the pyramid, is structured for all the same type of functions that might be going on in that pyramid are actually going on in our human brain.
Correct.
And Trina made an interesting comment to me about the chambers of the brain. She's like, yeah, I could see that. And Trina, you're on mute, but I don't know if you want to add anything, but if you want to add your observations, because I thought it was really good.
It's perfect when you look at it, because it's at the as above, so below. You know, when we look at pyramids, it's one of the biggest foundations of how everything is operating here. It's like you see these pyramids, you look at pyramids, you think of trinities, you look at trinities, you look at life, the trees, the trinity, the pyramids, they're all connected. It's like the primordial geometry of this planet is so connected, and it all has its own perfect function. When you do see the pyramid is about so much of to me, it's about the power of the mind, and it's somehow this trinity and this pyramid power somehow is one of the main ways that this whole reality functions, and we have that with our minds and
There's a
within our
pyramid
bodies,
in the brain
and
too.
Yeah.
Well, and the next slide, he blows this up, and he shows us how we put out that energy, that frequency, and how we transmit, and how we respond to sound. Go ahead, Lori.
Yeah, this is in the middle of your brain. So this is the center of you, and everything you hear, everything you smell, all the sensory parts of your body go directly to that middle point. And without that in the center of your brain, you don't have any sensory perception of anything.
This is what I'm actually doing. I spoke to messaging Karen. I'm doing a new putting a new visualization together, which is to do with your extra sensory perceptions, your common senses, because it's about looking at a clock and look at it going the opposite way. See lock. So unlocking all of that, and it's to do with visually looking at the hands, which are your hands on the face, and your nose knows it. There's so much there. And doing it to the right.
Yep.
We become the clock, so we unlock, and you work with those 12 neural brain nerves in the brain, which are all your senses. They're all to do with your senses, those 12 nerves, which are the 12 tribes, which is everything they talk about. So this is a visual thing I'm doing at the moment. I'm putting it together at the moment. I worked on a lady yesterday, and I'm going to do it after I've finished here with Liz.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to that.
Thanks
Right
for
on
sharing
time.
that,
You're
Jules,
always
and
right on time, Jules.
definitely going out on your limb. You just
Thank
kind
you
of
so
took
much,
us with
Jules.
you. Yeah, and it's fascinating. Well done.
Yep.
Well done.
Everything's fascinating.
Teresa, well done as well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
All I did was bring to light Jules's research, and Mandy's had a part in it. All of you have been dumping stuff in there. All I did was put it into a format for you so you could run with it, you know. So, but
Funny.
because
look
we
at
have
it-
full,
Even,
go ahead.
even down to my
Oh, the-
name. It's Trina. And the first thing I did when I was a
Tree.
child was I built a tree fort so I could live in my tree house.
Ah.
Perfect.
It's awesome.
Well,
It's awesome.
you look at the word weed, it's we past tense.
Yeah, right. Weed.
It's funny. I used to climb trees when I was a kid, and I'd get in so much trouble. We lived in Alpena, Michigan, where those great big trees. And I remember one time I'm like 6 or 7, and I'm way high up in this tree, and I look down and I see my mom, and I'm thinking, "Holy crap! What's she doing way down there?" She was screaming at me to come out of the tree because she thought I was going to fall. But I just had this connection to trees as well. I just wanted to climb them and be close to them, and
Yeah.
just sit there and hang out. I didn't want to
Take
get out of
naps.
it.
I like
Yeah.
to take naps.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully
just-
we've given everybody a bunch of stuff to think about tonight, because I was
Yeah.
it's going all the way back in time, the spiritual component, the possibility of how they may have. So now what do you all think? Do you think it's possible that pyramid that Enoch may have designed actually had the key to restore this planet? Because what do we need the most to survive? We have to have vegetation, don't we? And water, sun, nutrients. So do you think it's possible?
I think there's something to it. And I also think that each of us has some part to play in any sort of restoration programs, which is going on right now, actually active right now. You can be the restoration right now, you know, and this might be kind of like a template for just
Think
kind
about
of
it.
redoing it, you know, like redo that template of being
Everything,
reconstruction, be the paradise, be the heaven right now, be the answer, be the solution, you know.
everything is a product of thought. So
Yeah.
if this is the main thought center,
Mhm.
as above, so below.
Yeah.
If we create it, it manifests. So this is showing you the power is within the sound and the light that's within your brain. None of it
Mm-hmm.
matters without that. So the 12 tribes, the 12 lines, the 12 cranial nerves,
Yeah.
they attach to the 12 houses of the cosmic clock that sits above us. It's all connected.
And I think
Everyone agrees
translation
we
is,
are the key.
I think
Yes.
translation and being translated is, I don't think that Enoch is a special case. I think that this happens quite often. That analogy of that story is probably happening on a mass scale. It's just that you're not going to see the Book of Crystal. So we don't get
Yeah.
This is not the front see over. This is not the front cover.
Yeah.
Rose, it's rose to take you, and Mother Earth's vibration is rising to take us
Right.
all.
Right.
The rose is in the center of that pair of hands.
Yep.
There is
So-
the vessel.
Yeah.
It's already 10:40. We've been going out this for quite a while, so I wanted to let Karen announce what she's got going on with the fantastic upgrade. Talk about branching out. This website's had a major overhaul, and she's been working herself endlessly for the past couple of weeks getting information in. So, Karen, would you like to give an update on what you've done with it?
Oh,
Does
she's
Karen have a
right.
lag too? Is Karen frozen up? Okay. Well, she's added a whole section now for Scotty Roberts. He has his own section. She's also added a section for David Null. So David Null has a section on the Crystal Network now that he can take a look at and add to. She's added in information for Mandy Moo. She's going to be featuring Mandy Moo with a section of her own, because Mandy has so many different things she's working on, not just the crystals and the bismuth, but her adventures, Mandy's adventures. And there are many of them. She's like an archaeologist on the loose here, you know. Plus the experiments that she does with crystals and magnets. So there's going to be a whole section. She's already added in a lot of that. So she's building it, and she's overhauled it. There we go. Thank you, Lori.
Mhm.
So you have the main page there, and if you scroll down beyond the food bank here for Cajun, that's featured up front. There's Scotty Roberts' whole entire section that we put on there for him. So to access to his books, his research, and his illustrative arts and designs, they're all on there. And Scotty will have some adventures that he can load on there that he did with John Ward, perhaps some videos. And then she's got the whole community section for the appointments built in. If you go up to our community, you'll see that. The one thing I don't want to forget, by the way, go ahead, Lori, just pick.
Hang on. I'm trying
whatever you
to
want.
navigate her.
Yeah. So this
See
is the
community
community
videos.
section. All the folks that work with
Oh,
crystals.
here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So a whole section for jewels has been updated, and we'll be able to go in there and edit. Lori and I will be able to update all of this. Karen's laid the foundation for it. The Jules has so much to add to it, and we've been adding in things in for different people. So check out the Q of Q crystalnetworks.com so that you can see what's there. And if there's anything you want to update for yourself, let us know. Or if you want your products on there, there's a whole section for Mary Wynn still. And it's growing. What's fascinating about this is that it's growing. Just the 5 Michelles that we've brought in on top of it, and Scotty, and then we're gonna have Luke Walker. Walker's gonna be on there soon. And there's a whole section for Robert now in the Milky Way Soul Tribe and the Barnett card decks. Which, by the way, folks, you've got to order the Barnett cards, because if you want your card deck, we're not going to be able to get them if you don't start putting your money into the PayPal, because we need, what is it, like $800 just to send off
Oh, I thought it was 6.
to the printer. And I think it's somewhere between 6 or 800.
6 and 8, yeah.
Because you have to pay for postage and handling when you're mailing all these too. So all those costs had to be figured into the cost of the card deck.
Yeah.
So it's a nice tribute to Brian Barnett, and Milky Way and his mom are on there too. And so if you get your money in, then Al can actually go ahead and place an order to get them printed and ship them out to you. So there's a little video on there too. You can see what the cards look like. And there's a whole section now for Robert, his own biography. And he's in more than one place. There's Brenda with Robert there on the Milky Way, and she's also over there with us on Andromeda. So we have the Milky Way and the Andromeda pieces. Brenda's featured in both. She's so pretty, isn't she? So, yeah. So I don't know if I've covered everything that Karen wanted you to know. Lori, am I missing anything? There's something specific. Her Pacific Forest. Oh, yeah. Her Northwest Pacific Forest adventures with John. There's a whole section that she's updated on her adventures. All these photographs that she took last year, she's been loading them all into the system. So if you want to go check that out. There's Karen.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Karen. Do you want to say anything, honey?
Oh no, I just got back in. I got totally disconnected.
We've been showing off the website.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, just great stuff. Yeah, just keep updating it and connecting everybody and bringing all the group together in the community. And I'll just keep adding everybody's stories and adventures. And if you have anything you want on the products page or anything.
Michelle Cannon Free tried ordering the cards last night. Couldn't find them anywhere. Michelle, are you using a cell phone? See, we're still updating the website for cell phone access. You don't have a computer, so you're not going to see necessarily all the changes on the cell phone side of things yet. If you have a laptop, you can go in there and see the Brian Barnett card deck.
Yeah, she said. I think it's formatted for the cell phone. I just did quite a bit the last couple days actually to format the pages for cell phone. So
yeah, I'll help her. I'll just give you the PayPal link, Michelle, so you can go directly to the PayPal link and do it that way. Well, we're capturing names and addresses too, so I'll help Michelle. Maybe I can run it off of here and type in her information for her or whatever. We'll work it out, Michelle. So anyway, let's see if there's a workshop. We're still trying to put together that workshop with Jewels, Jewels, who's managing the for David, who's helping to administer and manage the Discord box, and Karen before she goes back to up north, so that we can do a show special or workshop, right? Probably on a Wednesday or something like that in the next couple weeks or so. We'll figure it out. But I got to get together with them and set that up so that we can show people how to navigate through these two systems. So I think that's it, Crystal. Is there anything you wanted to add? Esoteric Egypt next week, part 4, with Scotty Roberts. You're muted, Crystal.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, we're gonna have Scotty Roberts, man. Can you believe it? Like, he brings so many incredible experiences to the table, and I love him and Rainey's energy. They're so beautiful, and I just feel so honored that he gets to share that with us. And it's like, wow, this is so incredible. So we're looking forward to that, and we are definitely looking forward to that workshop before Karen goes on to the Yukon. And yeah, guys, order the cards. Put your orders in so we can get them, so we can receive them.
All right. Thinking about, guys, trying to put together a get together, if possible, at the Crystal Mines in Arkansas. So
that would be so awesome. I'm down for that.
Count me in.
So down.
So yeah, so I was going to say, let's really start working on that. I'll get with you, Lori, this weekend. We have some tentative dates, probably around May, the first week of May, before it's too hot and all that good stuff. So we're going to try to do that. Anybody that can come, it would be wonderful. We're going to get Robert's information for his sister who does the cabin rentals and all that good stuff. So
it would be a dream come true.
It would be.
Yeah,
It'd be like surreal, wouldn't it?
And see if we can work it out. So I think it's time for us to come together. And
it is. It
is
time.
A spiritual nuclear explosion.
Digging for crystals, hanging out at a fire pit, talking, communicating, physically connected. Nice.
Yeah.
The energy is going to be off the hook.
Oh no.
Yeah, and there's plenty of cabins, so there's whoever can go and bunk up with people that you can go with, and try to make it affordable and fun. And I think it's just really important that we all get together, and the ones who can get to meet. I think it'll be wonderful. So
David Knoll, if you take your speaker off, we'll be able to hear you. Take your microphone's muted. David, unmute your microphone for a second.
There you go.
Is there anything else you would like to add? Is there anything you want to announce?
Over each other, and
Oh, he's still having trouble with communications. Bummer.
I think I'm lagging, and so I've just been listening. Support you ladies very much, and each one of you have a gift. Can you hear me now? Each one of you have a gift, and continue the work that you're doing. Do not give up. But if I may give a little bit words of wisdom, remember not to focus on so much on the small things, but the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yes, always. Yeah. Absolutely.
The vessel.
Always.
Very wise, David.
Yeah.
Where is the box? There's no box. There's no box left. Get out of the box.
David, can you give us your standard closing to help us close the session tonight?
Yes, please.
And we'll put up with your lag. It's okay if you lag.
Well, early on, I wanted to say that I'm the bearded damsel here for tonight, filling in. But anyway, with my long hair, I'm the bearded damsel. But anyway, now that the show's over, I can throw that in.
That's so cute.
She's cute.
This is too cute.
I told you were the rose right at the start. I told you were the rose.
Mhm. Yeah.
I could be
He's
the,
the rose.
thorn, though, but anyway. Um, and we always, all of us, I know in my heart, just from listening and feeling the energy from not just these ladies, but all the people who participate with us, it is a blessing to know every single one of you. And although we may not have met, we have met. Remember that.
Yes.
We are
Yes, absolutely.
swimming in the universe.
Yeah.
It
That's
isn't
right.
just the trees. It's more than the planet Earth. We are swimming in the cosmos. Every dimension, everything's around us all the time. And the
Yes.
ancients who didn't use pyramids, then the Native Americans, just understood these things from the heart. It's a different
Yeah,
culture,
they sure
different
did.
mindset. But understand, you don't need a pyramid in order to be natural, in order to be able to feel and understanding
We are the
the
pyramid.
gifts from the universe, which is a
Yep.
leader segue into the prayer. So, but I continue to pray, we continue to pray that each and every day, each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the blessings from the universe. And we thank you for your participation in the universe. Thank you, ladies.
We
Keep up the
thank
good
you.
work.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, we thank
Thank
you.
you, David.
Thank you
you
all
so
for
much.
your gifts and talents.
Thanks
and
for
enjoy
coming on.
always.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
Absolutely
coming on,
honored.
David.
Great
I
way
always
to end the
support you.
show.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Love you
everybody,
too.
for being with us. Thank you all in chat.
you.
Thank you, everybody on the panels.
Thank you.
Much love to all of you. Peace out.